Good morning, world. This is Steve Rao, the host of Pod and Roku TV's World Edition. And I'm sorry my Wi-Fi is running slow, but I'm opening up the show today, and I had an emergency meeting come up, so I'll be back later in the week. But I wanted to open up the show today and bring in our guests. As I open up the show today, we want to welcome you to Pod and Roku TV, where we talk about global affairs, an increasingly turbulent world, politically, economically, and what we're doing about it and what's going on in the United States. Today, I will be talking probably tomorrow and later in the week about my visit with President Biden, his trip to Wolfspeed in Durham, and the CHIPS and Science Act and the Investing in America Act, Investing in America's Future tour, which brings in an interesting discussion of whether American manufacturing is coming back and the kinds of things that are going on in innovation to make sure that we're manufacturing more chips and things that we used to make in China and other parts of the country. In addition to that, today, I just want to bring to your attention there's terrible storms in Middle Rock, killed at least 31 people, terrible tornadoes. There's a lot of governments imposing stricter election laws in the U.S. We're going to talk about that. There's been rumors about Joe Manchin running for president under the no labels ticket. We're going to be talking about that this week. Don't know what's going to happen there. And lots of things going on with the really elephant in the room on Donald Trump's arraignment tomorrow in New York for his charges against hush money and other federal charges and other state charges. Once again, before we begin the show, to reiterate that President Trump can run again if charged or convicted. And the question at the end of the day is, do these crimes suffice to the violation of federal law or state law? There is a concern from many folks that, yes, crimes may have been committed, but does the justification warrant an arraignment and an indictment for things of these matters? And it does look like this strategy could be backfiring for Democrats as Republicans are mounting significant opposition to these developments, which all started with the grand jury indictment. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to drop off in a minute. I don't know if Mark Lee is joining us, but if you could bring in our guests, and then we'll continue these discussions when I return tomorrow, most likely to the show. Thank you all so much. Mark, let's go ahead and get started.
Glad to get started and all of that. Definitely have some stuff going on my end as well, but definitely a lot of folks are paying attention to a number of things that you just mentioned, including some issues around sportsmanship and things along those lines. So I did watch the Women's Championship, and yes, the team that won was LSU, and I know some folks are glad about that, but some folks were commenting, and it was all over Twitter, about one of the star LSU athletes making some actions and some taunting at the end of the game against the Iowa player, who is definitely a star player. But some people are asking if it's good for the goose, is it not good for the gander? Because apparently she had been taunting as well. So there had been some taunting back and forth and all in that space. So that is one of the stories that was out there. And like you said, that no label party, I believe, is actually being organized by one of our regular analysts. So Dave Walker may have some ideas on the economic shows and other shows that he appears on about Manchin being a candidate. And then I heard
I'm going to miss that show today, but hopefully we'll be back next week. I got to run, guys. I set the stage today for what to talk about. When I come back tomorrow, we'll be talking about the president's visit. I'm going to miss Media Monday as well today. But we're going to talk about the CHIPS Act, manufacturing. Tomorrow will be the day on the indictments. I want to get Dan Worthington's views on that. And I'll be back hopefully tomorrow. But, guys, have a great show. And looking forward to talking to you again tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Great seeing you. Thank you.
Dan, can I hear you? Because like I said, I don't know if I'm hearing you right now, but
can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yep. So what was your thoughts around the South Carolina game and some of the comments that were made? I know that.
Well, I think one of the problems we're having in our country today is a lack of civility and a good sportsmanlike conduct and that kind of thing. It's gotten entirely out of hand. But that's the political climate and everything that we're facing right now, because people are just rude to each other. They're not gracious. They're not kind. There are not enough good examples being set for our youth. I mean, you ask why they act out. Well, it's because the adults are acting out in angry and divisive ways. And that's really a problem. We just need to start acting like a more civil people. Whether you agree or disagree or have a different opinion, you can have a different opinion.
Right.
But you can disagree without being absolutely and totally disagreeable, right? There's a lot of things I disagree about, and you disagree about. It's just how you do it.
Yeah, but we're still civil with each other, all in that space. So that is very much the case and everything. We're going to continue our discussion and definitely have some other thoughts around that as well. But right now it's just me and you. So we're going to actually watch a couple of commercials. And also I can attend to my other meeting, and then we'll engage in conversations once I'm done with these commercials, which will hopefully take 5 minutes, which will be about as long as this meeting will be. So if you'll bear with me, we're going to have a little bit of a commercial break. So we can have our dialogue, and hopefully some other people will join as well. And these are actually from our conservative friends, so you might actually enjoy these. So this is actually one about the Biden-Harris mashup that our good friend Jeff Ahern did not that long ago, and I think I've got another one of his as well. So, even though I'm considered a liberal, I can have fun with some conservative comedy as well. So we're going to do these real quick, and then we'll be back with more news discussion. By that time, what I'm involved in should be done.
Hello and welcome to Newsday with Jeff Ahern. I'm your host, Jeff Ahern. Today's top story. If there is such a thing as foot and mouth disease, then Joe Biden and Kamala Harris must have gotten the version where it's their entire leg. With Biden, it's more of a staccato stupidity. Harris prefers a more robust word salad. So allow me to mash up their speeches and see if you can figure out who's who. My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democrat candidate for the United States Senate. And we have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. I think that, to be honest with you, I do believe that we should have rightly believed, but we certainly believe that certain issues are just settled. Certain issues are just settled, like poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids, which is why if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black, you lying dog-faced pony soldier. Come on, man. You need to get to the go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home. So you go ahead and stack the spaghetti sauce at a store and a supermarket. You control the guy or the woman who runs or brings out the carts on a forklift. What happened? Anyway, Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. But we stand with you. Putin may circle Kyiv, but he will never win the hearts of the Iranian people, which is why it's time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. And we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women were created by the thing. And America can be defined in one word. Ask the Mafapanahawa. End of quote. Repeat the line. America can be defined in one word. Ask the Hamanafatapai. Let's go, Brandon. Hello and welcome to Newsday with Jeff Ahern. I'm your host, Jeff Ahern. Today's top story. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is the new face of the Republican Party, winning Florida by almost 20 points. That's not just winning. That's high-stepping your way into the end zone to become the Super Bowl MVP, though I'm pretty sure he won't be going to Disneyland. It turns out there was a red wave. It's just it was limited to Florida. So let's address the elephant in the room, or the reason there won't be more elephants in the rooms of Congress and the Senate. And it's a simple truth. Democrat voters hate Trump more than their lives under Democrat rule. And that is saying something, because their lives under Democrat rule are horrible, deplorable really. But they were brainwashed for 4 years straight in a twisted Pavlovian experiment to see if the very mention of a man's name could make them pick up pitchforks and torches in his pursuit. Is it right? No, but it is. And you can't argue with what is, unless you're a Democrat, in which case you can argue about anything. The fact is that Trump never got a fair shake, and it doesn't matter. The fact is that his character was dragged through the mud and lies were made up about him by the hour, and that doesn't matter either. What matters is he's ballot box poison. Is it right? No, but it is. If it's any consolation, the networks that did this to him had to sacrifice all their journalistic credibility to do it, resulting in their current viewership on par with late-night infomercials. Poetic justice, since at this point they're Democrat infomercials. So why would the liberal media be willing to shoot through their own chests to get at Trump? Because he beat them. He upended their predetermined political outcome for the 2016 election, shining a light on what the puppet masters in the mainstream media had been attempting. I will always be grateful to Donald Trump for that, and for getting as much done as he did with a daily assault from the berserkers in the mainstream media. But the time has come to pass the baton, because like it or not, we can't win with Donald Trump. Is it right? No, but it is. And you can't argue with what is. And what is Ron DeSantis, who is very much like Trump, but with one key difference. In 2024, he can win.
Definitely, there was some work from Jeff Ahern, and all along those lines, I see that Sasha has joined us as well. But I was just wondering your take on this hearing, and apparently Trump is on his way up to New York. Sasha may be joining in and having his insights as well. I know that y'all don't always agree, but what is your take on this particular effort by the Democrats and the current person to go after Trump there in New York? And do you think that it will stand any chance?
No, I think it's should never have happened. I think it's politically motivated, wrong-minded. Comes extremely late. It's clear political motive. Were crimes committed? I don't know. Unlikely. But as the man said, show me the man, I'll show you the crime. And this is how they seem to be going about this. They want to get Trump. They want to get him any way they can. There's a great animus in the state of New York against him for whatever reason, mostly because of the bastion of liberalism it is. So it's wrong-minded, I think, the whole thing. I do agree that Trump shouldn't be the presidential candidate for the Republicans. I think he's going to do more harm than good. He may propel the Democrats into 4 more years of anarchy. And even if he is president, the Democrats will, do the same kind of act and treatment that they did in the first 4 years, right? They'll take the streets. It'll be insane. It'll be chaos. And there's nothing that Trump has done that's been terribly wrong. The irony is he's been as quote unquote liberal as some of the Democratic presidents were. Many of his policies, although we're America first, they were very, very friendly to the groups that normally have a big gripe against Republicans. And he was very effective. I mean, given like Hearn said, the flack and the disruption and everything else, given all that, he was very effective. And the fact that he's really not a politician and he was fighting the establishment in D.C. speaks volumes of what he was able to accomplish. But enough is enough. I think DeSantis is a better choice at this point because he has similar policies, but without the baggage, and he's able to put 2 words together without insulting people. So I see this thing in New York as a circus, something that should never be done. It's deplorable that the Democrats have stooped so low as to do something like this. But it's not surprising. It is what it is, right? It's just an indication of more of the same. There are people who actually hate Trump, like Sasha, who want to see him go down,
Big time.
and at any cost. It doesn't matter if it's a rule of law or if it's anything else. They don't care. They just want to see Trump go down. Now, I have to say, Sasha is a Canadian, so he shouldn't care at all about Trump. He should be focused on his own idiot up there, Trudeau, right? Because he's got his hands full with Trudeau, because Trudeau is a wreck, right?
But you see, in Canada, stupidity is not a crime. That's a problem. That's why he cannot be charged.
Rewarded.
What he is, he's just a stupid man. What can you ask? But then you can go as far as to say that electorate is stupid because they keep electing the stupid man, and he proves, yes, I'm stupid, so please elect me. Okay, we will elect you.
Well, and we would have done the same thing for Trump had they not stuffed the ballot box and everything down here. It's okay. It's just astounding that, and we're talking about this in the context of sports, but the level of civility and decency has been undermined by the divisive politics in the United States. Joe Biden has done very little to change that, and that's what his promise was. He's just more backstabbing about how he does it. Trump, he'll punch you right in the face, and he'll tell you what he says. Of course, now Biden will call you a horse, pony, butt licker, or whatever. He uses the words I don't even know. They're just so crazy. Did you watch that Hearn commentary, Sasha? Did you get to see that?
I think it's just the last.
It was funny.
Yeah, I like that, whatever I was able to hear. But Dan, look, my take is this. First of all, Trump, he lived on a borderline of crimes all his life, well before he was elected as a president. All his phony bankruptcies, all his humiliation of people who were working for him. He used to people. I read it in the book. There are many books, but I think one written by Johnson, Kay Johnson, who visited our programs a while ago. And he
another Trump lover, right? He's objective.
Yeah, well, but look, he wrote the book. I can say whatever I want to say. Nobody cares what I say. But he is a prominent member of society, and he knows, especially such a vindictive person as Trump, if he would say something in his book that is not entirely true, Trump would sue him for the rest of his life and make him a poor man very quickly. So
Trump hasn't been able to put the New York Times out of business despite all their lies, right?
Well, did he try? I'm not so sure. Because with New York Times it's more difficult. It's an institution, and they have the freedom of speech or so on. And this
well, and so is this guy. I mean, he's a New York Times. He's a New York Times former New York Times writer and that kind of time. Pulitzer Prize winner, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. But didn't the New York Times win the Pulitzer Prize for reporting on the lies about Trump and when he was president? Yeah. So, I mean, winning a Pulitzer Prize, it doesn't seem to be a high honor anymore, right?
Maybe. But still, if he would put in his book really outrageously obvious lies, I think Trump would easily sue him. And by the way, he writes in one of his books that he is very careful reporting on Trump because he knows how vindictive he is, and he knows that if he will say something a little bit not 100% truth, he would be destroyed, including financially, by Trump. So
Sasha, Trump's pretty much an open book. I mean, we know almost everything about him, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, but Joe Biden is a sneak thief. What he tries to do. Okay,
But
Here's my
Biden
problem
is
with Joe
not
Biden.
indicted. We're
Okay,
discussing.
so here's the deal. I know, I understand Trump's a rat. Okay, but Joe Biden's been has been in politics for 50 years.
Mhm.
He's never had an honest job in his freaking life.
Yep.
He cheated through law school. He's cheated. He's lied. He's double talked. He's all the way through. His family has taken advantage of his position in politics to make money with foreign powers illegally and in a corrupt. So, okay, so I'll take a bad businessman over a corrupt politician any day.
If he would be just a bad businessman, that's okay. He is lousy businessman. He bankrupted his casinos. He wasted all his father's money. We're talking about $400 million. Burned, garbage, done. That's what he is. Remember Trump University? Remember just all his businesses. He's just a very stupid man. That's all there is.
Sasha, though,
He is a stupid man. Just
well,
recognize.
so
And
that's
the stupid
what I
man finally is being charged because all his life nobody can really charge him criminally.
okay.
People
So,
tried, but they
Sasha,
couldn't. This time they succeeded. So let's
talk about his presidency. He managed to accomplish more in 4 years than probably the last 3 presidents did in their terms of office, and most all of it had a great impact on American economy.
Dan, it's debatable. I'm not prepared to argue with you.
Well, my point is that
for sure.
My point is that the proof's in the pudding. He was a very effective president, but for all of his name calling and crap. I mean, yes, we agree that Trump is imperfect and socially inept and used questionable business practices and all that, and the bankruptcies and all that.
Decency, whatever is
the womanizing and all that. Yeah, but Biden did the same thing. Biden womanized and did all the same things Trump did. Plus the fact is Biden isn't frankly very mentally competent right now. I mean, he shouldn't be running for president again. Donald Trump shouldn't be running for president again. Joe Biden should not be running for president again.
Maybe you're right, but we are not discussing Biden right now. Biden is just as well open book, and we know all he's capable and he's incapable of doing. So that's another story, but at least there is no obvious crime for which you can charge him.
Yeah, there actually is obvious crimes for which you can charge Joe Biden.
Well, maybe in some day he will be charged. But I want to tell you about Trump something interesting that, okay, you know how many proceedings there are. Georgia, there are proceedings connected to stealing and keeping classified documents. There was
no stealing. There was no stealing of the classified documents. He did keep them. Yeah.
Why he's not allowed to keep these classified documents? He's not.
But the government knew about them, and they knew they were there.
Finally, government knew or not, no, we don't know that. But finally, he was asked to bring and deliver all these documents back, and he refused. Oh no, he was hiding. He delivered some of them and kept some others, and so on. So they had to be raided in Mar-a-Lago. I mean, listen, this is not.
Well, the same thing had to happen to Joe Biden, right?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They can charge Joe Biden
properties, and they can charge. The other thing, Joe Biden wasn't president of the United States. He had no right to those security type documents. He shouldn't have had them in any location away from the White House. He wasn't president. He didn't have original classification authority. For him, it was a clear violation.
Well, we don't know. Vice president may have the same.
No, vice president does not have original classification authority.
So maybe one day after Republicans will take over the power, maybe Biden, if he's still alive, maybe he will be charged. Who knows? Or maybe he will complain that he was mentally incapacitated and therefore he cannot be responsible for whatever he's done. Well, we'll see about Biden.
And my point is this. Trump took the documents under a claim of authority as president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Biden just screwed up badly.
Well,
and his documents were actually in a Chinese-funded facility under lock and key. But he also had documents in his garage. He had documents in other places, a trove, right? That they shouldn't have been there. Now, Pence had the same problem, right? But in a less serious way. And I imagine Obama did too. And imagine if you wanted to really go after Bush and the rest of them, they all probably had documents that they kept for one reason or another, or just inadvertently or whatever, right?
No, but Dan, look, as I say, maybe one day Biden will be charged and we will see that. But with Trump, I wanted to notice something else. With so many proceedings against him, and the documents is just one, but Georgia is much more serious because...
Well, don't you agree that these are all politically motivated proceedings?
Well, this one that he was charged in New York, I would agree that this is politically motivated.
And in Georgia, it was political? Georgia,
no. There is a tapes, telephone calls where he is saying, all I want you to find me 11,780 votes is just one more than we need. Okay, how that could be politically motivated when there is a tape?
It's not a crime to want more votes.
Sorry?
It's not a crime to want more votes.
But wait, he is asking a Georgia official to, in fact, manufacture. All I want is to find.
That's one way you could look at it.
Okay, this is all his life, the double speak. He speaks.
That's one way you can look at it, I guess.
So that's why he doesn't sign any documents. He doesn't put anything on paper. So, but today with the modern technology, listening to telephone call or recording telephone call is not even a modern technology. It's been around for 50 some years. So finally, there is a stigma that sitting president, or even if he is a former president, somehow he cannot be charged. There is nothing in Constitution about that. It's not a law written clear and white. No, but this is sort of a stigma to charge.
They let Bill Clinton kind of escape. They've let Joe Biden escape. Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Listen, let's forget for 5 minutes about Joe Biden. We'll talk for the next hour and a half about Joe Biden. But let's forget about 5 minutes about Joe Biden.
Okay.
So there is a stigma that sitting or non-sitting or whatever president cannot be charged, period. No longer this is a true. This is why they remember the special prosecutor about 4 or 5 years ago. What was his name? I think it's on B. Do you remember who was a special prosecutor?
Which case?
What?
Which case?
Trump's case, when he was trying to find that he's guilty of collaborating with Russia, and Mueller. Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, the former FBI director.
Mueller, absolutely. And you know why Mueller couldn't finish his job? First of all, his job was interrupted by Barr, who says, thank you, you've done a great job. Now it's my baby. I will deal with that. Okay, number one. But even before that, even before Barr came into his position, Mueller could not do one simple thing when you need to do in criminal investigations, is to follow the money. You cannot do a criminal case if you have, you cannot do this, or you may do this, but you cannot do that. It's not how it all works. So Mueller failed in his investigation. He did not exonerate Trump, but still he couldn't especially because Barr completely stopped
And
his
keep
work.
the Democrats from impeaching him, though. They did that anyway.
But they can. It's all political. They can do anything, and the Fox News and Republican media also did a great job at doing whatever.
And CNN and CBNC and those others did
Yeah,
their part too.
Agree. Yeah, agree.
And we know they all lied their butts off, right?
Okay, so now finally we see the situation that the taboo of charging sitting or non-sitting president is done, is no longer a taboo. It could be done, it was done. So now all other cases, which are way much more serious than this one, now they will not have to fight a stigma of, oh, are we allowed to charge? Should we charge? How it's going to be? What American people will think, and so on. No longer, it's done already. The dump is broken. Okay, so now there will be at least 3 more criminal charges, and very soon.
No, there will be.
Well, we'll see it very soon. I have no doubt that Georgia and January 6th and the documents. I don't care so much about the documents case, but if it's there, and also don't forget when you're saying, yes, it's political, it's this or that, don't forget that there was a grand jury. So there were people who, if they
No,
would...
and you know about grand juries and ham sandwiches, right?
No.
It's you can indict a ham sandwich with a grand jury.
Well, that's how American judicial system is supposed
Yeah,
to.
It's not. It's grand juries are pretty much one-sided. You know that, right?
No. Why?
Yeah, they are.
Why? Prove it.
No, that's exactly the point of it. So the prosecutor calls the grand jury together. He's the one that puts the evidence before them. It's all one-sided.
So he has to find in the city of New York so many jurors who would be sympathetic to his case, because if not, then he's not going to get indictment. So
that's right. And in New York City, that's really easy to do.
Okay, so he was lucky that he was in New York City. But anyway, the procedure so far is going according to the book. You bring...
Yeah, no, actually not, but that's okay.
No, okay, there are some irregularities. I'm familiar about that. It will be dealt with. I think that Trump, if he still has money to hire top lawyers, he will be able probably to get to Supreme Court, and they will strike it down simply because of some irregularities or so on. So that's okay. I don't think that...
Trump was able to raise $5 million overnight after he was indicted.
Okay, good for him.
Yeah, hey,
the lawyer now is taking $3 million deposit from him, even before he is involved in the lawsuit.
Well, he wants to get paid, right?
Hey, Sasha, Dan,
apparently... a team of 10 lawyers, we're talking about $30 million. So he's still 25 million short. So he has to raise more money. Good luck.
Hey, Sasha and Dan, apparently he's living the jet set life, because what I heard is that he will be arriving tomorrow in New York to answer these charges and everything, but he has also been telling the press that he will be back in Mar-a-Lago on Tuesday evening to actually have a press conference. So I guess he's going to fly literally up to New York on his fancy jet and then fly back is his plan, which goes counter to Sasha's thought that he's going to be on the lam. But hey, who knows? Maybe he'll still be on the lam. Maybe he'll just fly down to Florida and go from Florida to wherever else he's going to go.
Well, it's a little hard for him to go on the lam with a Secret Service detail.
Well, I never said that the Trump will arrive by bus or by train. I never said that.
No, exactly. Well, he's got a plane. Why not, right?
He's got a plane. He might as well use it all in that space. Both of you, what were your thoughts? Because the other person that was in the news that is part of the Trump base and apparently was a person that was interviewed recently on a magazine that is considered prestigious, or a news magazine, and all in that space. Some people were very glad. Some people were like, why are we giving her a voice and everything? But apparently Marjorie Taylor Greene had the opportunity to sit down and share some of her thoughts with Leslie Stahl of CBS 60 Minutes. So I just wondering if anybody saw that and what their thoughts were of the interview, and is this a effort by Marjorie to become even more of a political force, or is she kind of too far on the extreme right, as just like some people would say AOC is on the extreme left? Dan, did you watch the interview?
Yeah, no, but I heard about it. I see her kind of in the same line as I do AOC, except on the opposite side of the CD, right?
Mhm.
So she's one side and AOC is the other. A little bit crazy, a little bit puffed up with pride and her views, and I'm not going to comment on either. I think both of them are kind of whacked out, but they're entitled to their opinions, right?
Yeah, they are. Did you watch it, Sasha? I know that from Canada you watch a number of television shows. Did you see the interview, and what were your thoughts about the interview if you saw it on yesterday
Which
evening?
interview are you talking about?
Leslie Stahl and Marjorie Taylor Greene. It was on
No.
yesterday, 60 Minutes, and all in that space.
I missed it. Didn't see it.
Probably didn't miss
I
much.
see that Leslie Stahls is shocked, is what is said on the headline. But why should she be shocked? She should have known. She was talking to Marjorie Greene. Why is she shocked? There is no shouldn't be any surprise what's going to come out of her mouth, really.
Yeah, like I said, and she said that she is one that will speak her mind, whether folks want to agree with her or not, and that can be a quality that people admire. We've seen it definitely in the sports world, we've seen it in the political world, but sometimes when people speak their mind, sometimes folks are shocked that they are speaking their mind, and other times they are shocked at what they are saying. So definitely it'll be interesting to see if they now go for an interview with somebody on the other side of the spectrum. Maybe they're going to go have an interview with the Muslim lady that is over there in Michigan, and they'll just keep having back and forth between the various extremes. Maybe that's 60 Minutes new tactic to get
create more division. Yeah, that's their job.
That's their job.
Yeah, it's create more division, animosity. Let's mix it up, get people fighting more rather than finding consensus and solving our problems as a people, right? So let's keep the hot topics on the plate, keep people fighting, keep people distracted, so that we can't really handle the real issues that Americans are facing, right? That's what the media does.
That's what the media does. We'll talk about that on Media Monday later on. I think that's at 12:30 and everything. We do have Economics Monday coming with the Honorable David Walker. And of course, he's just coming back from his fresh trip to DC as well, where he testified, and we aired that in front of Congress.
Yeah, I watched that. Very good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I did watch quite a bit of it as well. So I'm interested to see what his perspective of his visit was, and the other witnesses that were there as well. I do want to get from Sasha about what's going on in Ukraine on today. But before I get to that, just really quickly, we were talking earlier today, just on the news about taunting, and some of the conversations have been running all over Twitter about taunting. And I was just wondering, as you are a chess master, your wife is a chess master as well, is there a lot of taunting that goes on in chess? Because like I said, it is a common practice in basketball, football, and a number of the other American sports. But is there a lot of taunting that goes on in chess, or is that not seen as something that you will do, where you are trash talking your opponent? That is basically what taunting is.
About chess. Yeah, there is some trash talking, and actually on different levels. It's between amateurs sometimes, and on a very top level, they're very far and few between. And they're doing it. It's not really natural. They're trying to this way to promote themselves or as a game or whatever, and make it more interesting for social media and so on. I don't really buy it, and I don't follow that at all. And how about Ukraine?
Yes,
Sorry?
Yes, I said please. That's what my next thing was.
Okay, about Ukraine, it seems to me that people are busy trying to find a peaceful solution to that, because the intensity of warfare is definitely down. I noticed that before, just a week ago, there was 1,000+ Russian soldiers for being killed. Now it's way down to 600 a day. So it seems to me that either there are not too many people to be killed already, and I just don't know what's the matter. Because
Run out of shovels or something.
Hey, Sasha,
could be.
Sasha, do you ever worry? Because I was reading yesterday, last night to be exact, an article that was actually a survey, and it was polls and everything. And apparently, in the United States, and they were actually saying in the West, people are starting to get weary of the conversation around Ukraine, and they were saying that it was actually where it was at the top of the list of people's thoughts earlier. It is now at starting to wane and everything. So, are you at all concerned that that could be a growing trend, and that if less of the world is paying attention to Ukraine, because that's basically what the survey was saying, was that more and more people are more concerned about their day-to-day struggles and things of that nature, and it is not being covered as much, and not being a concern of the common man, whether they are in England, whether they're in Paris, or whether they're somewhere in the United States. And that was one of the factors that was being brought up in this news article that I was reading yesterday. And I was just wondering, both you and Dan, is that something that concerns you when you see polls like this that are saying that people have grown weary of the news after a year and a half of the battle?
I think it's a natural process, because you can keep news on a front page for so long, because you must have enormous striking news development to keep it up front. Because if you're saying, yeah, there is still a war, okay, so one day there were 1,000 Russians killed, and the next day 672. So okay, there is decrease. Oh, next week it's going to be 1,200. Okay, so there's an increase now, and so on. And now one side made up 500 meters progress, and another side made 700 meters progress in another direction. So unless there will be soon, I hope so, maybe even in April, maybe early May, so there will be a great attack of Ukrainians on all Russian forces up all front. Until that happened, I don't think that it will be on a front pages, because even all the Russian atrocities which were committed in Ukraine, war crimes and several others, that's also been absorbed. So you want to keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again. It doesn't work that way. So right now, yes, there is a decrease in the popularity of the sea. It doesn't mean that it's no longer important one, but yeah, there is a decrease in popularity. I agree.
Yeah, what was your take on that?
I look at it this way. It's really interesting. As much as we don't like, well, some of us don't like Trump, but during the Trump years, the U.S. military subdued ISIS. They pulled out of Iraq, and they're in the process of pulling out of Afghanistan, and then our troops would be free of conflict in the world. Had Trump remained, the Afghan pullout would have been done much more elegantly, I imagine, with much more finesse, because he's more competent in those kinds of things than Biden is. And I don't imagine that Russia would have moved on Ukraine if Trump was president.
Speculation.
I think that the reason Russia moved on Ukraine is they saw what happened in Afghanistan, and that Biden was weak, and that they had this opportunity, and they took it. I think they are surprised with the resilience of the West and their support of Ukraine. They didn't think that I don't think they thought that they would see such support. Like Sasha said, it's natural for this story to begin to wane, but I think the American people are very weary, very war weary. Mm-hmm. The U.S. military industrial complex.
They're just weary Are they just
beneficiary.
weary of Russia? Or are they weary of other countries as well? Because there's another elephant in the room, and I know that definitely Sasha talks about it on occasion on his show. But apparently the Chinese spy balloons are still gathering intelligence from sensitive U.S. military sites, despite the U.S. efforts to block these spy balloons. So are we just going to continue having a bunch of spy balloons coming in from China, picking up all of our military data? And is this something we need to be aware of as well? Because
I
apparently
mean, we should be shooting down those balloons every time they try to be, egress over U.S. or sensitive military installations or anywhere near our borders. We should shoot them down. They don't need to be. They don't need to be doing. And frankly, they don't need the balloons. They've got satellites, just like we have satellites. We do the same thing to them. We have for decades, right? And so the balloons are a provocation. They're an obvious provocation. They're intended to be symbolic. They are intended to be an affront. That's why China's doing it, and because they don't need to be doing it, right? They can get surveillance other ways. So I don't know why they're other than direct provocation and trying to create a reaction, why China would be still sending balloons. I haven't heard that they were, but maybe they are. The Chinese threat is a real threat. Ukraine is really a distraction because the real threat is China and what China is doing in their alliance with Russia, North Korea, Iran, and now other countries around the world to destabilize the U.S. dollar and to threaten U.S. military might. So, I have a great concern over what China's doing. I think that it's in the U.S.'s best interest to continue to support Ukraine on some basis, but I think it's really a game that we're playing with the U.S. military industrial complex to create dollars and fund dollars to the U.S. military industrial complex because they're very powerful and they're very much tied in to our own security agencies. And that's where the dollars roll. Sort of like Sasha said with respect to Trump, follow the money. It's the same thing with the U.S. military industrial complex. A great deal of corruption, a great amount of fraud, waste, and abuse, and potential for loss and bad dealing. I just don't like whether it's on. I don't know what the Ukrainians are clean hands or not. Sasha keeps saying they've been audited and all this other stuff.
Well, there was finally a commission which recognized that there were no irregularities in.
Well, there were suitcases of cash going out over the border.
So send another commission, send another audit. Do 5 audits every hour and a half until you will say, okay, there were no corruption. Oh, there was corruption, but they couldn't find it. One way or another. Listen, the U.S.
there was a leader's wife who was leaving and had like $5 million in cash in her suitcase. I don't know. I mean, it's like, what are people going to do? Some people are going to remain loyal to the country. Other people are going to get out while they can and make hay with their corrupt money, whatever. But
speaking of corruption, we may have come up with an original idea, and I'm going to tell you what happened or allegedly happened and everything. And maybe this is what we need to do in national politics. But here in the Durham area of North Carolina, apparently, we've been having these fights with our city council, and the city council, as I mentioned on the show before, has been accused of being in the pockets of developers and things of that nature. So they've been having all kinds of fights, and apparently they've been having literal fights. So one of the reports has come out is that one of the lady city councilmen actually attacked and possibly punched 2 other city council members as well. And that is now, of course, being investigated and seeing if that actually took place and all in that space. So is there something we need to have on the political front? Go to the old days of the West when politicians would be in duels and fisticuffs and all in that space. So maybe they've got a idea here of what we call the Bull City. So what are your thoughts? Do we need to have like maybe arm wrestling matches between Biden and Manchin to determine who will be the leader of the free world and all in that space, or maybe between Trump and AOC and all?
Cat fight. Trump and AOC. That's not even. Maybe between Trump and Biden. Would that be funny? Wouldn't it? Let's get him in a boxing match. Let's see what happens.
Could be interesting. We can see what goes on in that space. By the way, another part of the world over there in Finland, a quote unquote progressive, has apparently lost on her second term. So Finland's Sanna Marin is lost on the second term over there in Finland. So we're going to see other cases of people like that losing their base, whether they are either progressives or liberals. But apparently Sanna Marin was considered a global progressive icon, and she's lost out on the second term there in Finland after a right-wing surge. So she entered the office as the world's youngest
so much, right?
At the age of 34.
People can only take so much of the stupidity of the left, and they're blind policies that don't make any sense for the people of their country, and so people take back their countries, and then the people that are on the right get demonized by the press, and it seems to be that's the way it goes worldwide now, because the press is for the most part highly left-leaning.
You said it's left-leaning, but apparently this woman, and I don't know enough about her, maybe Sasha has some thoughts, but in the early parts of the war, she got a lot of praise because she was giving her vocal support to Ukraine. And apparently she also, as I recall, Finland had one of the better responses to the pandemic, and apparently she was at the leadership of that. So what do you know about this woman? And is it just that she said some things that were controversial and that her Nordic people did not enjoy, including maybe their response to the pandemic? Would think that she would have got a lot of support due to her support of Ukraine. But like I said, I'm not there and I don't have a lot of ties to Finland.
They booted her anyway, right?
Sasha,
they booted her.
Sorry?
What is your thoughts about the Finland lady losing after she had declared her support earlier for Ukraine? I don't know if the new people have declared their support, but she apparently was very much in support. And apparently Finland is ranked as the world's happiest nation. So I don't know how they're doing in that happiness category. They're booting out their leaders and everything, but they are definitely seen as one of the world's happiest nations for the 6th consecutive year.
It's just difficult to really to judge. I think she was sincere in her support in Ukraine, and so it depends on what world people would like to see. There is a thing called Finlandization. What that term means, it means that the country goes along with Soviet Union or now Russia and does whatever they can to please it. And in exchange, Russia or Soviet Union at the time would not attack it, okay? So if a nation is happy to live under such circumstances, then that's the way they should do it. You're not trying to upset your much bigger neighbor. You are trying to figure out how to please him and try to do it as often as possible. And this way, your big neighbor hopefully will not attack you. Okay, some people and some nations are happy with it and live this way. Some other nations refuse it, like Ukraine now. So you may say
apply for NATO membership.
It's the choice of the nation, it's the choice of the people in that nation. I think
didn't Finland try to join NATO?
I think Finland
is joining. It's underway now.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, no, and they need to. What they learned about Russia is they can't be trusted.
Absolutely.
And so it makes all the sense in the world for them to join NATO membership, because the West will be able to defend them against Russian aggression.
But there is a huge difference between Ukraine and Finland when we're talking about the process of Finlandization. You have to bear in mind that when Hitler and Stalin signed their secret agreement, the Finland was a territory which was to be taken by Stalin. And Stalin indeed started so-called winter war against Finland, had incredible losses. And at the end of the day, there was a peaceful agreement, and Finland gave part of its territory to Stalin, but remained independent, and Stalin never took it over. However, when the not Second World War, but the, let's call it Great Patriotic War between Russia and Germany started in the June of 1941, naturally Finland was on the side of Hitler, and fighting alongside with Hitler, participated in the blockade of the Leningrad and so on. Unfortunately for them, Stalin won that war. And now he said that, okay, now we want you to either join Soviet Union, or if you want to be independent, you cannot criticize Soviet Union, you cannot say bad things about Soviet Union. There were a lot of restrictions imposed on Finland. And Finland must have agreed with all of them, because they didn't have means to fight Soviet Union. So to save their country, they had to agree to this arrangement. Now, this arrangement is no longer valid because Soviet Union ceased to exist, as we know, and there was no treaty between Russia and Finland. And based on the way Russia behaves against Ukraine and other countries, Finland figured out that there is no way we can continue our policy of neutrality and so on. We must join NATO and have defense, in spite of the fact that Finland has very capable, very strong army, by the way. But they're still joining NATO. So that's another fiasco for Russia, because there is a 1,000 or so kilometers border between Finland and Russia. So, and Finland is very capable. I remember even from that winter war, not that I fought in this war, but I read enough about this war, that Finland had very strong winter brigades on their skis, and they're very capable skiers. And they were attacking Russians, they would never understand what's coming at them, and with such ferocity and speed. So this is now Sweden. That's another country which is also joining NATO, but slower because of Turkey's. I don't know what really Turkey wants. There's the story is that they're hiding some Turkish opposition leaders or so on. Maybe that's the case too. Yeah, could be. But for some reason, they didn't extract anything from Finland's joining the NATO, but they're adamant for Sweden. Okay, we'll see how it will play. I think once Finland will be a full member of NATO, I think Sweden will follow the suit, and very quickly.
No, I think you're right. We're getting to wind down. The other stories that I was getting to, and we can talk about them on tomorrow and everything, was that apparently oil prices were jumping after a surprise OPEC production cut. So definitely folks will be worrying about what their tanks are looking like in terms of gas prices and all of that as we head into the summer months and definitely the spring months right now and everything. And apparently, even though they're quite popular here in the United States, those fine folks over there in Paris have voted to banish those for-hire e-scooters. And I know it'll be interesting to see whether that becomes a international trend, or if that's just something that the fine folks in Paris are doing, because we do know that they can be, as Chris Greco calls them, some unique people and all in that space. But on those notes, we're going to get out of here. This has been a fun conversation, and we're going to be back on tomorrow with more conversations about what's going on in the world. And of course, we do know that on Tuesday at 11 o'clock, we also have the show with some great videos from Ivan about Ukraine, Russia, and what's going on in China as well. So we're looking forward to all of that, as well as the program that's coming up here, because up next, we've got Economics Monday, followed by Media Monday, and then we've got Maxine's show, as well as Dr. Anthony and a number of others. So if you're listening, keep tuned in. There's all kinds of great programming happening right here on Pod TV. But right now, me, Dan, and Sasha are getting ready to get out of here. Lee's been in the background, but he's been busy with work, so we might see him on the Economic Show. But the three of us are getting ready to get on out of here. We'll catch y'all later.
Guys.